Is the slide visible? Presentation visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, it's blank now.
Okay. It's blank. Slide is visible.
Yeah, ma'am, it's visible now.
Okay. So yesterday we stopped at repositioning losses. We were discussing about the analysis of single model assembly line, and we saw few equations which will be used to solve the problems with respect to analysis of the single model assembly lines. And then I just discussed that. Um, yeah, there are these two concepts of consideration here, that is repositioning loss and the line balancing problem, out of which repositioning losses we have discussed yesterday. Today we'll be discussing about the line balancing problem. What is line balancing? What is line balancing problem? Okay. So, what happens is in the manual assembly line, the work content, okay, the work content that has to be performed, or whatever task that has to be performed in the assembly line, it basically consists of many separate and distinct work elements. So any task that has to be performed, or any assembly operation that has to be performed, it can be subdivided into many separate and distinct work elements. That is, you can subdivide them into work elements. So, and whenever it comes to assembly operations, there is a sequence which has to be maintained. The sequence in which these elements, that is the work elements, that can be performed, is restricted. Like, you have to follow a certain sequence. You just cannot change the sequence. So at least to some extent, this restriction will be there, and the line must operate at a specified production rate as well, which will help us to reduce the cycle time. Okay, so when it comes to assembly line, you have to understand that the assembly operation, whatever it is on a whole, it can be divided into sub-assembly operations, and the smallest possible task, or the least possible task that has to be performed, that can be called as a work element. Okay, and there is a certain sequence that has to be followed, and that sequence must be followed in order to accomplish the complete assembly process. So there are two important concepts here in line balancing. Okay, before that, I'll just go through the slide here. The total work content, it consists of many distinct work elements. The sequence in which the element can be performed, it is restricted, and the line must operate at a specified cycle time. So what is the problem that they usually face here is to assign the individual work element to workstation, so that all the workers will have equal amount of work to perform. So that is the concern here. Whatever is the total work content that is there, that has to be equally distributed to everybody on the line, all the workers on the line, or all the workstations on the line. So here the concern is to assign the individual work elements to the workstations, so that all the workers will have equal amount of work to perform. So there are these two important concepts in line balancing, and they are a separation of total work content into minimum rational work elements. And the second concept is the precedence constraints that must be specified by these elements. So these are the two important concepts. One is you have to subdivide, or you have to distribute or separate that total work content that is there into minimum elements. And the second one is the precedence constraints. Okay, there has to be a certain sequence that has to be followed in order to accomplish the task. So both on these concepts, we can define performance measures for solutions to the line balancing problem. So let us understand the first concept, that is, what is minimum rational work element. So a minimum rational work element, it is a small amount of work that has a specific limited objective, such as adding a component to the base part, or joining two components, or performing some other small portion of the total work. So minimum rational work element is any task, the smallest possible task that is performed in order to complete the assembly process. So a minimum rational work element, it cannot be further subdivided into any other, it cannot be further subdivided. For example, if you consider a drilling operation, okay, if you have to drill a through hole in a piece of sheet metal, okay, that time what we do is, why do we do this? Basically, if you want to fasten two mechanical components together, suppose you want to use this bolt and screw. This drilling of hole that is there, that is said to be the minimum rational work element that can be done. So anything less than that is not possible. That is the minimum work that can be performed on any of the stations, for example. So it makes no sense to further divide this task into any other smaller work element. Okay, so that is the meaning of minimum rational work element. It is nothing but the smallest work that has to be that has to be performed. And it can be anything. It can be even adding, using some fasteners, or it can be using maybe there is some welding operation that has to be done, any of such types. So the sum of work element times is equal to the work content. Yeah, here. So the sum of work element time is equal to the total work content time. So as I said, this work content time that is there, work content time is nothing but the sum of these smaller work element times. So all the work elements that are there, if you sum them up, it will give you the total work content time. So this is the equation for it. Total work content time is summation of the work element time, that is TE, and K indicates the number of work elements that are there. So K is equals to 1 up to n, where TEK, it is time to perform the work element K, that is in minutes. N is number of work elements into which the work content is divided. That is K will be equal to 1 and so on up to NE. So please note down this equation for minimum rational work element. The how to get the total work content time, it is given by this equation. In line balancing, the following assumptions are made about the work element times. One is that the element times are constant, or they are the constant values, and the TEK values, that is element time values, are additive. That is, the time to perform two or more work elements is in the sequence is the sum of the individual element times. So this is what is shown here also in this equation. So the total work content time is nothing but the summation of all the work element times. So that is assumed here that the work element time that is there, it is additive. You can sum them up to get the total work content time. So the task time at station I, or service time as we all call it, TSI, is composed of work element time that have been assigned to that station. So the service time, it can be given by summation of TEK. An underlying assumption in this equation is that all the TEKs are less than the maximum service time TS. Although service time varies from station to station, they must add up to the work content time. So this is the equation. So what happens is, different work elements, they will be actually requiring different time. And when the elements are grouped into logical tasks, and when they are assigned to these workers at every station having a service time of say TSI, they all may not be equal, because every task that is performed may not be the same at every station. So different work elements will require different time also. Just simply because of the variations among these work element times, some workers will be assigned with more work and maybe some workers will be assigned with less work. So in order to avoid all this differentiation that might happen, we go for this line balancing. Next concept here is the precedence constraints. So we already have, I think you all are already aware of this. What is this precedence diagram and all, right? You all must be studying the same in OR also. It's the same here also, precedence constraints. Here we have these as the constraints because when it comes to assembly operation, there is a certain sequence that needs to be followed. Certain precedences have to be fulfilled or have to be completed, and only then you go to the next stations or you perform the next task. For example, if you're supposed to fasten two mechanical elements with the help of a bolt and nut, then first of all you'll have to drill a hole, then you'll have to go for tapping operation, and then you'll have to fasten it. So these are certain sequences which will remain unchanged irrespective of the application you're using them at. Therefore, these act as a constraint here, and those need to be followed in order to accomplish the task. So precedence constraint, in addition to the variations in element time that make it difficult to obtain equal service time for all station, there are also these restrictions on the order in which the work element can be performed. So the elements must be done before others. So there are certain tasks I think I had a server problem. Am I audible now?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So I don't know where it got disconnected. I just reached this problem. Where did it get disconnected? Line balancing problem we were discussing. The precedence constraints are here. Were you all
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
from
ma'am.
here?
From here. Yes.
Okay, precedence constraints. So, in addition to variations in element time that make it difficult to obtain equal service time for all stations, there are these restrictions on the order in which the work element can be performed. So, some elements they have to be done before the others. For example, if you consider nut and bolt that has to be used in order to fasten the mechanical elements. So, what will be the sequence that you'll follow? First of all, you need to go for a drilling operation. After drilling, you go for tapping operation, and then you can use the fastener in order to fasten those mechanical elements, right? So maybe some sheets. So here there is a certain sequence that has to be maintained. So some work has to be done before you proceed to the next type of work. So that is what is precedence constraint. Okay. These are like the restrictions. You just cannot move to the next station until you finish the task on the previous station. So precedence diagram and all you already have come across in OR subject. So these basically are technological requirements on the work sequence, and that is called as the precedence constraints. So precedent constraints, they can be represented graphically in the form of precedence diagram, which is a network diagram that indicates the sequence in which the work elements must be performed. So on the precedence diagram that we'll be drawing, work elements are symbolized by nodes and the precedence requirements are indicated by arrow connecting the nodes. And the sequence basically starts from left to right. So this is a precedence diagram. I'm sure you all are familiar with this type. Always the precedence diagram moves from left to right. And these round circles that are seen here with the numbers written, these are the nodes which represent the work element, and this is the precedence requirement, that is the way the precedence has to be followed. Like in order to go for the third operation you have to first complete the first operation, then only you can jump to third one. Like this you have all the work elements placed in a sequence. Next is measure of line balance efficiency. So the measures they must be defined to indicate how good a line balancing solution is. So one possible measure is balance efficiency, which is the work content time divided by the total available service time online. So please write down this. This is the balancing efficiency. Line balance efficiency, TWC upon W into TS. So, more the balance efficiency, better will be the line balancing. Okay. So, if the line balancing efficiency is 100%, that means the line is totally balanced. That is, all the work, total work content is equally distributed in between all the workers and the stations. There will be no worker who will be having more load or somebody who is not having any load. It will be like equally distributed. That is what they are trying to achieve here. And then we have the complement of this line balance efficiency, that is a balance delay, which basically indicates the amount of time that is lost due to imperfect balancing as a ratio of total time available. So balance delay is given by this equation. So if suppose balance delay as in the more it is nearer to 0, the better it is. Because the sum of EB plus D should be equal to 1. Suppose if you say EB value is 100, that is it is 100% efficient and D value is 0, then you have a perfectly balanced line. Have you noted down these equations? Yes, have you noted down these equations?
I'm noting down.
Okay.
And in the actual process, how often do we achieve that 100% efficiency?
There are these different algorithms that will be coming across. When it comes to these actual, the practical applications that you're talking about, 100% efficiency becomes difficult. Okay, but if you're achieving it, then it will be a completely balanced line that we always aim at, because completely equal distribution of work at every workstation or to every worker at times is not possible. Sometimes there will be situations wherein somebody will be having a little more workload as compared to the other. It also depends upon the type of skill they have. So, of course, this is what we aim at, but may not be 100%. You will see here also it is shown in this typical line balancing efficiencies in industry. They basically range in between 90 to 95%. Okay, so achieving 100%, of course, will have some limitations, but reaching up to 90 to 95% can be possible. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have you all completed this?
Yes, ma'am.
So next is this worker requirement. In our discussion of the relationships in this section, we have identified three factors to reduce the productivity of a manual assembly line. They can be expressed as efficiencies. So we have already come across these three types of efficiencies. One is line efficiency. If you look back to your into your notes, if you all have noted down correctly, we have already found an equation for line efficiency E. We have written an efficiency that is repositioning efficiency ER just in the previous class. And now, just by referring to the previous slide, we have written line balancing efficiency EB, that is TW upon, sorry, TWC upon W into TS. So we already have the efficiencies for all of these three. By considering these also, we can get the number of workers, that is W. In the previous class also we saw W star. There was an equation that is minimum integer greater than or equal to TW upon TC. Sorry, TWC upon TC. So here, together they constitute the overall labor efficiency. So by considering this overall labor efficiency also, you can find the number of workers required. So how do we get this overall labor efficiency? It is the product of all of these three efficiencies. That is E into ER into EB. So using this measure of labor efficiency, we can calculate a more realistic value for number of workers on the assembly line. And it is given by this equation. But the problem faced here is all of these efficiencies can be calculated after the line has been made ready. So finding out the number of integers towards the end is going to be of no use. Sorry, the number of workers, right? So these are the equations we have. So here it's mentioned that the trouble with this relationship or this equation that we have got is that it is difficult to determine the values of E, ER, and EB before the line is built and operated. But anyways, this equation, it can create or provide an accurate model of all the parameters that affect the number of workers required to accomplish the given workload on a single model assembly line. So these all parameters basically affect um, the number of basically these parameters, they affect the number of workers that are required. though this equation may not be very much of help in the beginning in order to find the number of workers required, and based on that you can design your assembly line. But once, because all these efficiencies, they can be obtained towards the end after the line is created. But these relationship that we have, all of these, they can tell you what parameters basically affect the number of workers. So here itself you can see E into ER into EB. Okay, the product of E into ER into EB is what it is, worker efficiency, right? If the worker efficiency is more, say it is 100%, number of workers required will be less because they are inversely proportional, right? This is the labor efficiency. If the labor efficiency is less, number of workers required will be more. Okay, so moving on to the problem, the first problem on line balancing. Can you see the table? 15.4 work elements, for example, 15.1.
Last part is cropped out of the screen, the 12th line.
12th line is not visible.
No, ma'am.
Check now. Is it complete now?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what you all can do is, I'll just read the problem statement first. This is a problem of or line balancing. A small electrical appliance is to be produced on a single model assembly line. The work content of assembling the product has been reduced to work elements. So all of these you see here, 12 series here, the work element description, all of this together will make one electrical appliance, whatever is the appliance here. So all of these things have to be done in order to complete the work. So this is the total work content. If you see, this complete column is the total work content, and that is divided into these work elements. So place frame on work holder and clamp, that is one work element. That is one task to be performed. Then there is the next one. Then there is the next one. And all of them together, they're called as the total work content. So the table here, the table also lists the time for each element and the precedence order in which they must be performed. Precedence order becomes very important here. Suppose if you start with the work element number 8, that is assemble the motor to brackets, and if you just go on continuing at random anything from this description that is given, then the assembly will not be possible because there are certain restrictions. If you want to perform the 8th task here, you have to see that the 3rd and 4th are completed first. Okay, so like that, the precedence to be followed is very important here. The line is to be balanced for the annual demand of 1 lakh units per year. The line will operate 50 weeks per year, 5 shifts per week, and 7.5 hours per shift. The manning level will be 1 worker per station. Previous experience suggests that the uptime efficiency for the line will be 96%, and the repositioning time lost per cycle will be 0.08 minute. Determine total work content time, that is TWC, required hourly production rate RP to achieve the annual demand, cycle time TC, theoretical minimum number of workers required on the line, that is W star, service time TS to which the line must be balanced. So you can just write down the given data, and I request you all to please copy down this table here. You can skip the description part. You can just make a column and leave it. You need not write all the things in detail. You can just note down the TEK, that is the work element time in minutes, and the precedence. It must be preceded by what? And the serial number. So just write down these things. This particular problem is very important because all the line balancing algorithm problems that are there, all the different methods that will be coming across are all explained by taking this one example. Okay, so make sure that you have this problem statement, rather the table that is there, that needs to be there with you. You'll have to refer to it again and again. So just write down this table correctly. You can neglect this description column. Write down the TEK column correctly and the precedence column correctly, along with the serial number. And also write down the given data from the table. Sorry, from the problem statement.
Ma'am, what is the marks weightage of this problem?
More than 10 marks. It depends upon what method they are asking you. Every method again has different things to be done, different procedures to be followed. So if you consider this first problem that we are now going to solve, it can be asked only for 5 marks because we are not solving this with respect to any of the algorithms. Okay, this is just simple equations that we'll be using. The analysis of single model assembly line equations that I have already given, the equation for finding out how to find TWC, TC, RP. That these are the simple substitution problem. This first one. If you consider the different methods, they can be asked for 10 to 15 marks at least. Noted down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if you can refer to the notes that you'll have written previously, that is analysis of manual assembly line, you'll get the equations to find all of these that you have to determine. First, we'll start with the total work content time, that is TWC. What is TWC? It is summation of the TEK values. So what you can do? Simply sum all the TEK values, right? So the first thing that you have to do is you have to just sum all the TEK values, because TWC, that is the total work content time. It is the sum of the work element times in the table. So TWC will come as 4 minutes. Just check if you are getting this. I will be continuing the class for another half an hour and then we'll stop, so that tomorrow I'll not take a class. It will be over today itself. I hope that's fine.
Okay, ma'am.
Are you getting TWC value as 4 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you understood how to take the total work content time. It is summation of the TEK values. They have to all get added up. Then you'll get the total work content time. Next, you have to find what is the given the annual demand, what is the hourly production rate. So we have this equation for determining the hourly production rate, where DA is what? The annual demand. We have to use the denominator. In the denominator, we are using 50 because in the problem statement, it is mentioned that the line will operate for 50 weeks per year, 5 shifts per week, and 7.5 hours per shift. So you have 50 given already, we have used it. SW is given, HSH is given. So you just have to substitute and get the answer. What is the answer for RP? You get it as 53.33 units per hour. We are not using the constant 60 here because HSH value is given in hours already. It is 7.5 hours per shift. Had it been given in minutes, then we would have to have used the constant 60 to convert minutes to hours. Got this answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm getting the exact same.
Okay. So third, what you have to find? You have to find what is the cycle time. The corresponding cycle time TC with an uptime efficiency of 96%. What is the equation for cycle time? We have this equation. Why efficiency is important to be considered here? Because that is a part of this equation TC, and they have given in the problem statement that the uptime efficiency, it is 96%. Uptime efficiency is what? The time for which everything is running smoothly. Time in the sense that's a parameter. The percentage of time, 96%. It is
1.0801.
so 60 into efficiency upon RP, 1.08 minutes.
Yes, I'm getting 1.0801 minute.
Okay. So I hope all are getting the value of TC. Next is theoretical minimum number of workers required on the line. So there was an equation given for this also. It is W star. Now suppose if you use, now anyways, this is being mentioned as theoretical minimum number of workers. So the equation has to be this only. There is one more equation for number of workers, right? W is equals to workload upon 80. You can even use that equation if you have, if you want to, where workload is given by RP into TWC, and the available time it is given by 60 into efficiency. You can use any of those equations, but that is the equation to find the number of workers only. They have asked you to find the theoretical minimum number of workers, and for that the equation is this. So if you refer to the equations of analysis of single model assembly line, you will come across two equations for W. One is for W and one is for W star. W star is theoretical minimum number of workers, and that is what we want here. So substitute, and as it is said, it is minimum integer which will be greater than or equal to this. Therefore, W will be equal to 4 workers. So you are going to round it off to the higher number. 3.7 will become 4 workers. Is this clear? And last thing that you have to find is the service time, the available service time. Service time is given by what? Service time is given by TC minus TR. TR value is given in the problem statement as 0.08 minutes. And you have found out what is TC, that is 1.08 minutes. So the service time is 1 minute. That means actual time for which the task will be performed is going to be 1 minute out of the cycle time, which also includes the service time in it. I had shown you the graph yesterday, the figure which was a column graph which was shown. The total cycle time will be a sum of the service time plus the TR value, that is repositioning time, and ideal time at times. So here cycle time is going to be 1.08. There is no ideal time considered because this will be with respect to the bottleneck station. So this is clear how to solve the problem. This is most simple thing that you'll see in this unit. Are all getting this answer? All these answers?
Ma'am, even while finding the theoretical efficiency, why do we consider that 0.96? If it was theoretical, then we would directly consider it as 1.
Which one? Where have you considered theoretical efficiency?
Not theoretical efficiency, they are asking theoretical minimum number of workers.
Yes.
For that, we are using that 1.08 minute, which was derived by using 0.96% of efficiency.
Yeah, it is the uptime efficiency given in the problem statement. If not given, you take it as 100%. But if it is given, then you will have to take what it is.
Okay, ma'am.
Shall we proceed? So this is the most simple part of the problem, and when we go for these algorithms and all, maybe this will be the start of the problem solution. You have to first determine all of these values and then you proceed with the other steps with respect to each algorithm. So talking about the line balancing algorithms, the objective in line balancing is to distribute the workload on the assembly line as evenly as possible among all the workers. And this objective can be expressed mathematically into alternatives but equivalent forms. That is, you have to minimize W into TS minus TWC or minimize TS minus TSI, the summation of it, subjected to TEK less than or equal to TS, and all precedence requirements are to be obeyed. So based on all this, the algorithms, there are these three types of algorithms or three methods that we'll be looking into. One is largest candidate rule, Kilbridge and Wester method, and ranked position weights method. These methods are heuristic, meaning they are based on common sense and experimentation rather than mathematical optimization. So in each algorithm, we assume that the Manning level is 1. So when we identify station I, we also identify the workers at that station. What do we mean by Manning level? It's nothing but the number of workers present at that station. Okay, so as it is already assumed that there is going to, the Manning level here is going to be 1. That means at every station there is one worker who is working. Okay, so these are the three basic algorithms: largest candidate, Kilbridge, and ranked position weighted methods. So these are some of the features you can say, or yeah, some points with respect to those algorithms only. So for largest candidate rule, what we do, the assignment of work element to stations is based on the amount of time each work element requires. So in largest candidate rule, the allocations are made based on the mm, work element time that is required. When it comes to Kilbridge and Western method, assignment of work element to station is based on position in the precedence diagram. Element at front of the diagrams are assigned first. And in the ranked positional weight, it combines the preceding approaches by calculating the rank position weight for each element. So you'll understand this as and when we proceed. Okay. So moving on to the largest candidate rule method. I'm solving this one problem. Please pay attention. This is a very important problem. As I said, we have this one problem for all the methods. So I've just repeated the problem statement again here. We have the same problem statement. So here it will just be like um apply the largest candidate rule to example 15.1 that we have here. When they say apply largest candidate rule or maybe the any other two methods, you will have to follow the procedures with respect to those methods and solve the problem. So the very first step will remain the same again, that is analysis of the manual assembly line that is there. You have to find what is TWC, what is TC, what is TS, what is RP. All of these things you will have to find first, and then you will have to find what is the line balancing efficiency. Okay, in order to find that, you have to just um, okay, that also you will have to find, but then we will see what else can be found out by referring to these methods. Okay, so I hope you all have this problem statement already with you. To this you can just add apply largest candidate rule. Okay, so to proceed with what we have to do first of all here is whenever you start with this problem solution, okay, with respect to largest candidate rule, you will find the value for TW, TC, RP, TS. You know the equations to find the same. You'll refer to this table, get all the equations. After you do that, you have to you have to draw a precedence diagram. Precedence diagram has to be drawn here. Okay. So in largest candidate rule, in this method, the work elements, they are arranged in descending order according to their TEK values. So, okay, first of all, am I audible to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Here what happens is, first the problem statement given, you find out all the required, whatever you have to determine, you determine. After that, the first step that has to be followed is you have to rearrange that table that you have written down in descending order according to their TEK values. This is clear. You have this table given based on the TEK values in an ascending order. You have to rearrange this thing. Not just the TEK values, but also the precedence requirements or the constraints that are there, they also have to be rearranged. So based on this TEK value, you have to first rearrange the table. Can you start doing that? So when you rearrange everything, this is the table that you get. So work elements arranged according to TEK value for largest candidate rule. So can you see here the work element numbers, that is the serial number that was there. It is all arranged in the ascending order, largest to smallest. And the corresponding precedence constraints are also listed here. So this is the first step. Have you written down this table?
Yes.
Shall I proceed to the next step?
Okay, ma'am.
So the first step in largest candidate rule is rearranging the complete content that is given to you in the descending order of TEK values with all the corresponding precedence constraints. Next is you have to draw the precedence diagram. To start with, you just see the problem statement table that was given. When you refer to that, if you see the first and the second work element, that is place frame in work holder clamp having a TK value of 2 minutes, and the second work element is having a TK value of 0.4 minutes. If you see the precedence, we have put 2 dashes there. That means that does not require any precedence. So initially you can start with the first and the second task. So first task, which requires around 0.2 minutes, second 0.4. So this is how you start with the precedence diagram. After that, if you see the third work element, the precedence for it is 1. So if you want to perform the third work element, you should first complete the first one. Right? So the first work element has to be completed in order to perform the third one. Likewise, if you see the fourth one, it requires first and second to be completed. So I can place 4 here such that I will have okay, I missed an arrow here in between 2 and 4. It will come later. Okay. So if you see the next one, that is fifth work element, it requires the second element to be preceded by. Therefore, this is how you can draw the precedence diagram. You start with 1 and 2. Third can be completed after first is completed. Fourth can be completed after 1 and 2 are completed. And fifth, it can be completed after the second one is completed. This is clear. Next, if you see sixth work element, it wants a precedence of 3. So I can place 6 here. What about the seventh one? Seventh also needs the precedence of 3. Eighth one requires the precedence of third and fourth both. Correct?
This is a bit confusing, ma'am. Even though it's common sense, arrows and precedence is a bit confusing because there is no proper mathematical model which we can follow.
Yeah, because see what happens is whenever you start with a precedence diagram, always, maybe any of the subjects you're using this precedence diagram, this all is going to be a kind of a trial and error thing. Okay. First, you will have to just maybe there will be 1 or 2 rough diagrams that you'll have to first start drawing, and only then you can finalize, okay, this will be the right one. At the start itself, you cannot start with the correct one. And how you place it, it all depends upon you. The placing of all these nodes, it all depends upon the individual who is solving this. Now I have placed the nodes in this way, maybe somebody else will be placing it differently. So it all comes with practice. You all are using precedence diagram in operation research also, right? OR subject. Are you? Yes, can I get an answer? Are you all studying precedence diagram in any other subject? Should I continue or stop here?
Ma'am, is it end of this problem?
No, there are a few more steps.
Then continue, ma'am.
Okay. So precedence diagram, are you studying in any other subject?
No, ma'am. That's why it's confusing.
You are not studying this in OR?
I guess we are not reached that place where we come across this precedence diagram.
Okay, fine. Then it's okay. Um, then we'll do one thing. We'll take this problem in the next week itself. Okay.
Okay.
Because I assume that you all have already come across this precedence diagram thing. But it's not at all difficult. It is simple, and this actually comes with practice only. How you have to place these notes, these circles that you see here, circle. These are called as the notes with the work element number written on it, and on top we have written the TEK values. Just for our ease, we have just written them because we might have to refer them further. Okay, so placing these, where you will be placing and all, basically, as I said, precedence diagram starts from left to right. So you have to start from left to right. And whenever you have no precedence, now suppose if only one had no precedence needed, then only one would have been written. If two needed one to be completed, then two would be somewhere in front of one. But here in the problem statement, one and two both don't need it. Okay, it's not even okay, basically, what we prefer is to have them one below the other, just to have a uniformity and to have that neatness in the diagram. So you just cannot randomly place any notes anywhere, and you cannot just have the arrows taking arcs and curves and reaching the node, the next node. So we'll try, in order to have that uniformity and to have the things done systematically, we follow it such that it is all going to be placed one under the one below the other in front of each other. It's like that. Anyways, we'll continue in the next class because after this also I have few other things to be discussed, and all of these things need little proper understanding and time. And as I can see, the strength of today's class is very less, so it's better I'll have the class on Monday where I can expect more students to be there and understand this problem. Okay, so we'll stop here today.
Thank you, ma'am.